everyone. Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. We, your favorite boys, are here with our very special guest today, Joey Gallimore. Welcome, Joey.
Thank you. Hello.
Joey is here as a good film friend of ours who is notably a horror movie expert, has been running the blog Camera Viscera, which is a horror movie and ephemera blog for quite some time. CameraViscera.com, right? How do we find that?
That's correct. And on all social media.
Tell us about the blog. When did you start doing it?
I started it about 4 years ago in Chicago. I was basically reading other sites and other blogs and being like, oh, this is like the stuff I talk about all the time with my friends. Why aren't I just posting it on a blog? So I've been doing that pretty much regularly since then, selling a little items here and there.
I loved your Halloween 3 pins. That was so good.
Oh, yeah. I made these.
You got great merch.
Thank you. Yes, the flashing Halloween 3 pins. I'm sorry, am I boring you, Julian?
Get to the candy review. You do a thing every year. You do 31 days of Halloween candy.
That's right. This past year I did Halloween candy, and the year before I did 31 days of beer, which, remember we drank that beer at the hotel?
Yeah, that was great.
It was like jalapeno pumpkin beer. Remember? It was like real spicy.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember it
Really?
being pretty
That
good.
sounds terrifying.
I like spicy stuff.
Yeah. We drank warm beer at a hotel in the Bay.
Some
It was very romantic.
but you with the candy, what do you have to do with the rest of your diet when you're eating?
Because you're skinny as a bean. That's the thing.
Yeah.
about
Thank you.
And then you only eat candy for the whole month, right?
Yeah, well,
You pick one candy a day and you eat that all day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Neither of those things is correct. But I did tell somebody I was going to eat 31 days of candy, and they were like, dude, you're going to die. And I was like, no, I'm going to eat like one piece of candy a day for 31 days. So, yeah.
So if you get a box of like Halloween themed Oreos, you don't eat the whole thing.
No. And in fact, like most of the
film yourself doing it.
Right. No. In fact, most of the time, if it's like a bag of something, like I got a bag of these things from World Market, and it was like called skeleton bones, but it was just like white Cheetos. It was like white cheddar Cheetos, and they were called like skeleton bones. I just had like 3 of them, and then did not eat the rest of the bag. So
did they taste real bones?
It tasted exactly like a bone. It was disgusting. But what's weird is
actual marrow.
People don't understand that like our bones in our bodies are white cheddar flavored.
And they require sustenance.
Right, yes.
They require the bones of others to survive.
That's right.
I also just want to point out, fuck the haters. Friend of the pod, Jordan Peterson, has been eating all beef for a long time now, and he's fine. So I respect your right as an American citizen
Longer
to eat
than anyone should.
as much candy as you want.
Thank you.
Go on.
I was going to ask, what is your favorite horror movie? If you had to pick 1 or 2 or 5.
Okay. Favorite horror movie is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original.
I see the shirt.
You're literally wearing the shirt right now.
I am wearing
That's
it.
so cute.
I didn't even realize. And I mean, like Halloween is a seminal horror movie, and
Beautiful films. They're both classics for a reason, you know. Both films I actually saw for the first time in the last year, and both I were like, wow, you know, like everything is referencing this, and for good reason. They just like really nailed it.
Sure. I think both movies are imitatable for many reasons, and but I there's just so many good 80s horror movies and 70s horror movies and early 90s horror movies, and there haven't been any other good horror movies.
God bless. Yeah.
And I think this filmmaker watched a lot of those same movies.
Yes.
From the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Should we get into the movie?
Yeah, I think this is a great excuse to segue into our movie for the week. The specific reason we invited horror expert Joey to join us today, we watched a very rare genre of Christian horror movie, and this movie is called Prey.
Period.
Prey.
End of discussion.
It's the second in the series. The first one is Eat, and the third is Love.
They should put periods at the end of the titles more, because then you don't know when it's gonna end. If you're reading a script and they don't put period after the title.
Well, I think
Was it period pray written by Harmony Korine?
Period.
Period.
I think that all scripts should follow telegraph rules, and you should have to say like pray, stop.
2 tickets to pray. Stop.
But wait, which one of you? I feel like Scott, was it you who found this movie?
I think I just found this by searching through Christian movies on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I think we were there. I think we were all there when it happened.
Oh yeah,
It was in like just suggested movies.
Oh yeah,
After
okay.
you watched probably like alongside Night or something.
Can I just take full credit for it?
Absolutely.
please. Also, I
Period.
mean, I was brutally high when we were doing all of this, so I will accept any story. But also, I do want to shout out, not that I like to kowtow to our corporate sponsors, but Amazon Prime is just where it's at for watching shitty stuff nowadays. It is just the ultimate realm of shitty movies.
It really is.
unreal. Is there like any sort of barrier to uploading a movie on there?
No.
Because I saw one that was just like a guy saying the word alligator, and then it showed just a picture of an alligator.
Oh, that video is from Amazon Prime?
Yeah, you remember that?
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Prey. Who wants to sort of give a brief summary of the movie before we go into specifics?
This is a 2007 North Carolina product from Spinning Cross.
I believe it's Shadow Cross.
Cross Productions, which has a great logo. It starts with 48 hours into the future, and we see somebody being chased through a mall parking lot, and a shadowy figure grabs a chain out of the back of a truck, and a young woman is trying to get into her car, and then we smash cut to 48 hours earlier.
The present day.
Yeah. And then we follow some people going into a gas station and a mom buying juice, and then she ends up being the first victim. And can we talk about her house for a little bit?
Please.
Where she spends the first 15 minutes of this movie, before the opening titles have even come in. She's on a fucking odyssey of trying to get juice into this baby's bottle.
The interiors of houses in Christian films is definitely an aesthetic blog that someone listening to this could get me to follow their Instagram if they started that, because it's very, very interesting.
Where do you get a leopard print picture frame?
To match your leopard print curtains.
Yeah,
And your ruby red walls.
yeah. The first victim of this movie, one would assume that this is being filmed pretty on location. This had a very Dogma 95 vibe to it, and this woman's house was like brown rug, like red walls, like multiple different sheet of prints.
The first victim of this movie were the Property Brothers when they saw the inside of that house.
Wow, shots fired.
Well, this is why I like movies like this. Like, this isn't shot on video, but movies like that or shot on digital.
I think it's in the same vein, though,
In the
just
vein.
because they clearly used the cheapest thing that was available to them at the time in 2007.
It's like shot on SD card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the actors are friends of the director. Like all the locations are where the people actually live or work. It's like to keep the budget as low as possible. So like that's something I find really fascinating about like old shot on video movies, is like when you're watching, when the camera is sort of panning across this like trashed apartment from like 1988, and there's like cans all around and just terrible posters on the wall. It's like that's where that person lived,
Love it,
Like,
yeah.
and that shows you their personality. And so when you look at this god awful color scheme and like gaudy clashing patterns and just it screams this woman is a Christian in North Carolina.
A lot of the Christian movies we watch are basically like church-sploitation or Christ-sploitation movies, and these are just Christians making a horror movie. So it's like what you just mentioned, there's a lot of that where it's like, I know these people are Christians, but they're not like pushing an agenda particularly at any point.
Right. No, that's a good point. This movie is more than a Christian film. This is a film made by Christians. And that's an important distinction. Yeah, we've reviewed some very studio films.
Yeah.
And this is not one of them. This is very, very indie, as Joey was saying.
This one doesn't really like proselytize like all the other Christian movies we've watched so far. It's more just like, this is what we know is just like Christianity. Like that will inform this movie in the same way that like it informs our day-to-day lives. It's never just like, oh, if you're not Christian, you should pray to Jesus if you're ever being chased by a guy through a mall. It's just like, oh, well, of course you would do that because that's the only thing we would know to do.
Right.
Yeah.
This movie begins with a pretty non sequitur, just like killing of a character we briefly meet. But then it actually launches into the main part of the story, which is following this woman. I want to say her name's Madison. And her her name's Madison. Her name's Madison, and she comes back from she sees some sort of Christian rock concert with friends, and she's staying in a motel.
Yeah, what was the line the kid said?
Seriously though, who gets to go backstage at a concert? It was like incredible.
I know, right?
Really, like, it was so
Nobody gets to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
VIP people.
I love that line. I want
He
to.
has a guitar. One of the friends brought a guitar to the concert.
Yeah, well, it's. I think it was normal back then in the early 2000s to bring an acoustic guitar to a Christian concert, Christian show.
Yeah,
and also leave with that guitar intact.
Yeah. In the early 2000s, it was polite to play along with the the artist on stage.
You never know when you could get brought on stage.
Really quickly, going back to the gas station thing at the beginning, the mom buying the juice, and she didn't have enough money to buy the juice. And so some young girls behind her in line said, oh, here you go, and gave her like $1 extra to buy the juice for her baby. Those girls, did those two girls end up being the high school girls?
Yeah, that was them.
They were the leads, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
As a Christian, doesn't she know that the apple is, that means trouble?
Damn.
Oh,
Wow.
that's wow.
Whoa, do you think that was intentional?
It was apple juice. We should clarify.
Yo,
Yeah, it was apple juice.
God said you can make juice from any of the trees in this garden, but do not drink apple juice from the tree of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, because not that much longer after she serves the apple juice, not to give away anything, but
We should probably
Oh my
spoil
God,
parts
that
of
was
the movie.
actually deep as fuck, Scott. I can't believe
Yeah.
it. She drinks she serves the baby the apple juice and then she gets killed. That's
And the
unbelievable.
people who gave her the money to
Buy
take the apple juice also must suffer.
right.
whoa.
Yeah.
We very briefly, the movie cleverly gives hints that are sometimes implied to be red herrings along the way of who the identity of the killer could be. And it's very interesting because one of the first hints we get is like true Giallo style, where we see just the outstretched arm of a person who works at a gas station, and we can see on their left wrist there's a tattoo of a couple chain links, and I really liked that.
For sure. And I think the direction is actually really good in it. I mean, considering that it's like shot by a youth pastor who assumedly has no background in film or whatever. I don't know. But
He went to
maybe-
Tisch.
He was doing it with stylistic intention, though. For
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
definitely.
He clearly, I mean, like he's one of those like he's like a Tarantino or Rodriguez. Like he graduated from the video store, you know.
Yeah. So let's continue. Where are we at in the film?
We're starting now post credits with our young lead.
Yeah, they just left the concert.
Concert.
Now she's our what was her name?
Madison.
Madison. She is back in the hotel room, going to bed a little earlier than everybody else. She got a little spooked by a friend on the way back to the hotel room, who just wanted to give her a hug.
He ran up on her without saying anything
And
Yeah,
tried to put his
yeah.
arms around her.
Yeah,
at night when she was all by herself in the equivalent of an alley.
Yeah.
yeah. And so after that, she's back in the bedroom watching a really amazing television program, which I thought that this was like probably the most. If you took this scene outside of this movie and put it in like a quote unquote like a critically acclaimed director made this movie, and you put the scene in their movie, and it was the same plot and everything, I think it would fit right in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
She's
very
sitting
cool.
there like just not really like drying off from a shower, less provocative than it sounds. But she's got the TV on, and it's like this really weird, like not even like public access style sermon of like a pastor basically talking directly to the camera, saying like,
Self-made people who said, I don't need that. My life is fine. I'm doing great. I've got a great job. I got a great family. And that's true. You may be fine for now.
you're going to get chased to death and like possibly die unless you accept Jesus as like the only way out.
Yeah, he says like everything will be out of your control at some point. You're just gonna have to look up and pray.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the prophet. He's like in the Friday the 13th movies, Crazy Ralph, who says, yeah, "You're all doomed. You're all doomed." You know,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
pay attention to me, and nobody pays attention to the crazy person.
Right.
And then what happens? They turn out to be
Yeah.
right.
Did anybody ever see the Night of the Living Dead, the original one? It's been public domain for basically like its entire existence. So there were like a few weird re-releases in like one of them in the 2000s. Somebody added a bunch of scenes with like a crazy preacher kind of guy who was like, this is the end of day. They were like scenes that were completely independent from the rest of the movie, but it was like implied that this guy was trying to like start a cult around like a doomsday cult around the zombie invasion. And it kind of reminded me of that, where he's just kind of like sort of preaching to the camera that like, you're going to have to accept the Lord in these dangerous times.
I like that about this movie too. I appreciated that, you know, she was watching on TV and then the pastor in the TV was like, zoom in on my face. Like there will be a time when you are alone and you will have to pray. And sure enough, she did, because, you know, we keep following her around. A lot of, you know, pretty mundane stuff happens that sets up, you know, she has a boyfriend, she goes to high school, you know, we meet her younger sister, we meet her mom. The scenes with her boyfriend, though, are particularly of note. That's probably one of my favorite mundane yet good moments of the film, is when she's going out to the restaurant and driving around with her boyfriend. I appreciated that.
Yes, let's talk about the boyfriend, shall we?
Yeah, cool guy.
I guess this is where we see like our conservative suburban aesthetic that we were talking about.
Yeah,
To match the decor that we're living in, like their homes. Now you get to see the stuff that they wear.
Yeah, and
How they look.
That's what I really appreciate. And you know, you were talking about shot on video movies and the resourcefulness of them, and that's what I like about this movie and other Christian indie films like that, because you know, without intending to, it really just captures a time and place.
Definitely.
And you know, with the decor of the earlier settings, we learned about the characters, and I really appreciated the personal style of this boyfriend of Madison's. You know, he was like very tan. We speculated it might have been like base tan, like tanning bed.
Definitely.
He was wearing those like, he's like clearly ultra straight, but was wearing those like diamond earrings that are very popular.
The Oakleys.
The Oakleys, gotta
like
have.
bowl haircut almost.
Yeah.
Gotta have it.
The giant truck.
Yes, very expensive, unnecessary truck, and
dumb as a rock.
love it, love it. Well, think about, you know, Christ's disciple Peter was also known as the Rock,
Really?
Ooh.
Peter the Rock. So
Peter the Rock Johnson?
so you know, I'm gonna just now speculate that this boyfriend was meant to represent the disciple Peter.
His the look is something, is a type of kid that I went to high school with in the early 2000s for sure. Because you know, I went to high school in a small southern Illinois town, and like the kids would come to class like at 7 a.m. in like camo, because they'd been hunting before school.
Yeah.
They'd show up in like the orange vests at school. They just gotten done hunting, so it was that type of school. Yeah, like I feel like he's the edgy. He's like a Christian version of like edgy, of like rock or metal, because he's got the earring, he's got the black T-shirt, the jeans, kind of the gelled hair, the bangs down against the head type of thing.
Yeah.
And he's super tan. I don't know. I just feel like he would be considered like a bad boy, maybe. Because, like, what's his competition in the world of, like, Christian boys?
Right.
Like, popped collars and, like, cargo shorts?
Exactly. I mean, every other boy we see in the movie is wearing, like, a brightly colored polo shirt that's 3 sizes too big, with the flip-flops, with the cargo shorts, but he's a bit more of a bad boy.
I mean, he's suspiciously not attending their school because he drops her off at school in the morning and then he is already there to pick her up when school is over.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not his car. It's implied that it's the killer's truck that's waiting for her outside. But
he's
it's
still
like so normal that he would be there that she just mindlessly walks over to a truck and almost gets in.
So one has to wonder how old this bad boy is.
Was he expelled or, is he way older than her?
We
10 to 15 years older than her.
Maybe he's homeschooled. She met him at church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's actually the best of them all.
Right.
That's altogether possible.
One thing we didn't mention, though, is that his food order was a plate of 4 or 5 hamburgers with shredded lettuce on them and nothing else.
So they go to the Nofo diner later.
Yes, there's a restaurant in town called Nofo. We see a mundane scene of Madison and her boyfriend eating, and she is drinking a diet soda because she wants to look good in her prom dress, and she's looking at photos of Keira Knightley while she's sitting down at the diner drinking a diet soda. Meanwhile, her boyfriend is eating a plate of multiple hamburgers, probably with diner prices I would estimate valued at like $35 for that plate of food. So it's just a very, women be dieting,
For sure. And again, I think it's a very small town Christian way of thinking. It's not proselytizing, but it is definitely this like guys can eat what they want. Women, they got to be concerned about their figure.
Yeah. It's a gender roles charade for sure. It's very interesting to see how performative that is.
And it's the type of stand-up material, that you would hear in some podunk club that would get all the laughs,
When I want to eat, I eat.
Yeah.
I eat 5 hamburgers.
Wait,
Sometimes 6.
Wait.
Sometimes
Just
7.
lettuce.
wait, Julian.
Well done.
Julian, would you mind reading us that meme that you read us before the movie started? I actually think it applied really well.
Okay.
Julian found this meme, and I actually think that it's pretty long-winded, but it summarizes the concept that we're
I found a
discussing
meme.
here. This boy found a meme.
It's a picture of Mike Rowe with his arms crossed, and he's kind of smiling. He's dirty, of course, because that's his job, is to get dirty.
Of course.
And it next to him are the words, "No, I won't apologize for mansplaining. Mansplaining works. Mansplaining doesn't take a half-hour detour from instructions on how to operate heavy machinery to talk about the dress Linda was wearing yesterday. Mansplaining doesn't ruin driving directions because there was this purse in the window of a store you saw on the way that has nothing to do with how I get to the hospital." So that's the meme.
That's so tight. There's just so many things implied in there that are great. And I just, I appreciated how that concept manifested within the movie Prey.
Do you think the person who actually wrote that meme was ever in an emergency situation where they were driving to the hospital and they needed the directions and somebody was like dying in the back seat or something? And they're like, "Hey, look at that purse in the window."
I mean, they must have. How else would they have thought of that example?
It's so specific.
I feel like it might be ironic But it's also, you can't really tell anymore.
No.
And it's because of shit like this scene where it's like this girl is concerned about her body image, and what does her boyfriend do? He's like, I love you. You're not fat. Your friends are fat.
No, serious. If I wanted to date Keira Knightley, I'd be with her right now.
Oh, really? And when's the last time you talked to Kira?
All right, point taken. But you're gorgeous. Why do you think I'm dating you?
Look, you're a guy. I don't expect you to understand. Every girl is pressured to look good right now. All of my friends at school are going to lose at least 10 pounds before the dance.
Some of your friends could use it.
You shouldn't even care about what your dress looks like.
Yeah.
When it's like, you're not getting at the root of the issue here.
And then you can go buy your dress in a plus size.
You jerk. Did you even pray before you ate your food?
Yeah.
No, Andy's also talking to her like literally in between lines, taking bites of hamburger, which
Yeah.
is very, very funny.
And clearly reading his lines off of a cue card behind her head.
Yeah,
Love
and clearly 20 to 30 years older than her.
We love it. I mean, people can't see it because this is audio, but I'm actually reading my lines for this podcast off of them.
We can hear your eyeballs moving left or right.
This is a scripted
You
podcast.
have
This is a
such
radio
wet
drama.
sounding eyebrows.
Yeah.
You get your
Somebody called
podcast.
Ben Stein.
And give this man his money. No, I know you're talking about the dry eyes.
Yeah. And where do you go to get those things? The mall, which is where
Good segue.
our hero goes next.
And shops for 4.5 hours in one contained area of the mall.
I like to think she got there like 5 minutes before because, like we were talking, the disdain for service workers.
Yeah. It was interesting because I felt like a couple of times in this movie, service workers were used as like a punchline or as like, a foil to the order in the world.
Who was implied to be the killer at the very beginning.
Right. The gas station attendant was implied to be a killer. Also, when we see our main
Register
character,
jockey.
yeah, and when we see our main character Madison shopping at the mall, she gets there when it's light. All of a sudden it's dark and she hears an announcement from the intercom that the store was going to close. Yet she keeps shopping and then eventually reveals that she's been shopping for 35 minutes past the store closing, which is just like simply insane.
And
Like,
when the manager shows up to tell her, you've been shopping so late, the doors are closed, the shop is closed, you got to leave.
All the lights are off.
The lights are off.
I'm going to bed. She's in pajamas.
The old woman who runs the place. Then Madison says, excuse me, but your male announcer, is that what she called him?
yes.
Your male announcer told me that the store was, or he didn't even know what the store was called.
Attention shoppers. Final purchases should be made now. The store will be closing in a couple of minutes. Thank you for shopping at Kruger's.
Nice. Doesn't even know what story works at.
And she's like getting on it was a very like, let me speak to your manager type of moment.
Let me speak to
I
your male
am the
manager.
Yeah, and she didn't, and that's what happened is she didn't realize that this old woman she was talking to was the manager and the only person in the store. So it was our killer that was making the announcements and trying to fool poor Madison.
But you know what? To be fair to Madison, I think that whoever is working at the store, which obviously there's nobody, we saw nobody else until then. You have to tell somebody when the store is closing. You can't get mad at them 35 minutes after it closed.
Oh God, yeah.
You also, if you're the only person there, I think you do a little walkthrough or something. When maybe that's what she was doing. When
Yeah.
That-
the interaction
Pretty
just
late, though.
felt so fake,
Yeah.
in this movie of all places.
Yeah.
Where every other scene screamed truth.
It's not a documentary, that's for sure.
This happens so much in not good movies where people are just so antagonistic towards each other right off the bat. Never
Yeah.
met in their lives, and they hate each other's guts. And it happens a lot in Christian movies.
Yeah.
When it's just like for no reason. It was the same outcome. She left the store as if she had just been like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize the store was closing.
Well, there's just this weird idea of service workers being like another species. Like people will be like, oh, well, the cable guy will always make you wait. Like it's just sort of. I think
that
because like when you're
sitting on his fat ass.
Yeah, well, I think it's like when you're relegated to clean humor, quote unquote. Like all you can do is be like, well, the cashier wants to do this or I don't know. It's just because ostensibly the same people in your family or in your community are the ones like pumping gas or working at the grocery store or whatever, but they're just completely
it's the same
faceless.
people who like go up to like a fucking ATM and they're like, what do you mean I have to turn my fucking card around the other way?
Yeah.
I should only have to put this in once.
Yeah.
Or like, what do you mean chip? I just got used to swiping. And then it's like, oh, as soon as like a fucking person working at a Dairy Queen isn't happy to be there, slaving away over a fucking hot ice cream.
Hot milkshake machine.
Yeah. One of my favorite desserts, by the way, hot ice cream.
Oh, we love it.
They're like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be happy to be serving me.
Yeah.
I'm paying you.
You're right, Julian. You're right. Let it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sign of like not having ever written a script before and also not having ever acted in a movie. Like the immediate go-to is like 10.
Yeah.
Like your first thing is like, what? You're just like screaming at each other.
Yeah.
That happens all the time in like low budget movies like this.
So let's finish this plot summary. I feel like we're pretty close to the end. It's funny because really a lot of time is spent developing the characters. There's not a ton. There's a bunch of horror in the beginning, and then it's all sort of saving up for the climactic final encounter. If someone wants to talk about that.
Before we get to that, I just want to say that a lot of the horror or scares is two different types of fake outs throughout the movie. The first one is somebody like turning on a light and like the music starts to build, it starts to crescendo, and they flip on a light in a room and it's nothing, and that's the spook. Is that it's the lack of a spook that's the spook. And so that happens several times. Like somebody goes into a car and the music gets heightened, but nothing happens. Or someone sneaks up behind somebody. This happens a million times in the movie.
Yes,
literally,
In
like
their own
6
homes
times.
from their own family members.
Everybody just keeps jumping. They'll turn around and
Store
somebody
managers are doing it.
It just happens.
Janitors
so much.
are doing it to people.
Yeah, like people are just jumping for no reason. So, anyways, that sort of pads out the scares because it's a Christian movie and they can't show killing,
right?
So it has to pad out with those.
Show a
types of
close up of somebody being gored.
Right.
Doesn't happen.
It doesn't
Which
happen.
is like also a kind of very Christian thing that like the movie is throughout the movie it's mentioned that 3 women have been abducted and probably murdered, and it's not really that scary. It's like the mindset that as long as you don't see anything violent, it's not that bad.
Right.
Like that weird cognitive dissonance where it's like hearing about somebody getting abducted and murdered is like, oh, that's
what
good
happens.
thing it didn't happen to me. And then, but seeing it in a movie would be like, oh, that's horrifying. We can't let children see this.
Yeah. That's interesting you say that because we were talking about object permanence earlier.
Yeah.
And Christians do tend to have like another type of object permanence where it's like out of sight, not my problem.
Yeah. Or if it's
absolutely.
happening to somebody who just isn't like me, it's
Yeah.
not my problem.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Which is not what it says in the Bible.
That's a really good
Ooh.
point.
We read it before we recorded this podcast, and it didn't say that.
I just want to say we do that every time before we record the podcast. We read the entire Bible leading up to it.
Because we want to speak from authority, and we owe that to our listeners.
And just to see if anything has changed since the last time we read it.
that new international version, there could be a newer international version.
Yeah, they patched it.
Yeah.
People just put their own, like, since it's public domain, you can just put in your own sections of the Bible that you want.
Fixed glitch in story of Jonah, where Jonah clips through the walls of whale.
Nobody's done that in a while. Like King James changed up the Bible.
Yeah.
When is like
You're talking about LeBron, right?
yeah,
Exactly.
It's been a while.
King James version.
Yeah, when is like James Harden gonna write the next
Thou shalt dunk.
chapter? Yeah,
So we're in the mall. So she has to leave the mall. She's been there 35 minutes past closing. As the manager explained, for some reason, 35 minutes after they close. The manager disappears. She just kind of steps out of frame, and then we don't see her anymore. And then so Madison's all alone in the mall. Or mostly all alone. So she gets instructions on how to leave from the manager. That's not the way to leave. And then we get a jump scare from a creepy janitor who kind of looks like Tom Savini.
Which I want to say that jump scare actually scared me. That one was really well timed.
Oh,
like I kind of jumped at that one.
Yeah,
so
that
good
guy
job.
was creepy. We should double back real quick and talk about the hotel manager who was like,
Oh yeah, I guess there was
so
another
disturbing.
pretty scary interaction earlier.
So earlier in the movie, when Madison is staying at a hotel room and she gets creeped out and she decides to leave, she phones the manager to come help her with her one bag. And he comes in and he is a false jump scare when he bangs on the door and she doesn't know who it is. And then
Pounds on the door in his own
In
hotel.
a way, it's a real
People-
jump scare.
oh yeah, I mean it is a real jump scare.
I would be scared.
That was the most terrifying part when he walks into the room with two teenage girls and then closes the
shuts
door
the door.
behind him
And leans on the
and
door.
leans against the door.
That was quite scary.
More disdain for the service industry.
Yeah. And just like a weird, like, it's like a lesson that is throughout a lot of horror movies of just like, you should be scared of everyone all the time.
Yeah.
I kind of want to explore that really quickly, though. Is like, what were they trying to convey with that scene and that character? Because it seems weird that in this Christian film they would be alluding to this guy being like a pervert. Like, I feel like those sort of things are like over the heads, like that. Like, perverts don't exist.
I think
Yeah.
you're supposed to think that was the guy, the killer intercepting the hotel manager.
Just to throw you off.
Like, sort of think that like,
this guy
guy's
might
not
actually be the
him.
killer.
Yeah, or
Okay.
or like maybe the hotel manager is going to show up in like 30 seconds and be like, "Hey, I'm here to get your bags."
Right.
And then again with the janitor at the mall scene he was like, I think another guy where you were supposed to be like, oh, this is the killer. Because the way he raises his arm, you're like kind of looking for the tattoo on his wrist.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Scott, you were saying about the she's just about to leave the mall and she runs into a creepy Tom Savini janitor.
Yeah.
Okay.
He creeps her out. Then I don't know where he goes because you don't see him anymore after that. So then she tries another exit and she sees a creepy guy in a weird mask walking up on her, who we had seen the shadow of earlier in the film.
Same mask from Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
The clear plastic sort of
Like baby mask or something.
70s,
Like a cutie
bank
person.
robber.
And
Yeah.
I'd say there's a 50-50 chance this director saw Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know.
I think it's 50-50.
I mean, he either did or he didn't, so I guess you're right.
So Scott is right. It was a 50-50.
I just feel like if he saw that at the video store when he was younger, he might have picked it up. Just based on...
his other inclusions in this film.
Yeah.
Which
What
we'll
was the
get to.
thing- Okay, we'll get to those.
Yeah, we'll say that at the very end.
Yeah, so then she's terrified, running away from this guy in the mall, which is great that they had access to a mall for what clearly a low budget this
I am
was.
so jealous. That was amazing. They just filmed in an empty mall at night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looked great. And there's more jump scares as she runs away from him, punches him in the face when he pops into frame at some point.
He knocks him out cold.
Yeah, well, she had a brick in her hand.
Oh, yeah. That's the secret. That's every good boxer's secret.
It's a good trick.
Where did she get the brick?
She picked it up because it was holding a door open. She just grabbed
yeah.
it so that the door would close behind her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then she eventually finds the way out of the mall. She never uses the brick to break through glass for some reason.
Yes.
That's pretty
So many
obvious.
glass entrances and exits
Yeah.
in this mall.
But that is not in
Or
the
to
budget.
kill the guy.
Yeah, the guy
Yeah.
that was trying to attack and kill her, she could have used it to smashed his head in.
That
wouldn't
or at
have
least
even been a
incapacitate
sin.
him a little more. You could like smash his ankle or something. He doesn't have to. You don't have to kill him.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be a sin either way.
No.
Yeah.
Because like at that point.
Yeah, just break his chain dragging hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she gets out. She runs through the parking lot. He does his like fast walk, non-run thing behind her. That we've all seen in other horror movies. She gets to the car. It's oddly right next to some kind of tow truck or like car maintenance truck, and car's not starting. Guy's getting closer.
This is where we're back at the very first few frames that we saw in the movie, right?
Yeah, that said 48 hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now it's been exactly 48 hours.
Yeah.
And it won't start. She prays, Jesus, please start the car.
Jesus, please start my car.
Car immediately starts.
Jesus comes in the car, hot wires it for her.
Literally
Smoking
takes
a
the
cigarette.
wheel. Takes the wheel and leaves. She's stuck there.
Yeah.
She pulls out just in time. He's like at the window, slowly bending down when she pulls out. Cut to later. Her parents are talking about what a traumatic night she's
We see her
had.
dad for the first time. For whatever reason, just introduced one more character
Right
for the last 2 minutes of the movie.
We
That's a
love
good
that.
point.
And he scares her too. The one last person
Oh, yeah.
been scared.
Oh, that's
Another
true.
like hug from behind
Yeah.
situation.
Dad hugs the
Oh,
mom.
sorry. So many people just like turning around. Ah! Oh, sorry.
The other thing that I've noticed
It's like the greeting of this town.
about the jump scare thing is when the person who is scared just turns around and jumps and screams, they scream for like a very extended amount
Yeah.
of time.
Ah! Oh, it's me or it's you, my husband.
it's me.
It's me. It's just a mirror.
It's a me mirror. Anyways, okay. So the dad and the mom of Madison are talking about Madison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says he's going to go check on the car real quick. Dad pops the hood. We don't see what's underneath it at all because that would cost money.
Yeah.
And is stunned to find that there is no engine in the car.
Yeah.
It still started and left despite there being no engine.
Shannon! Shannon, you're not going to believe this.
Believe what?
Come here. You've got to see this yourself.
What, honey?
It's gone. The entire engine is gone.
How is this possible?
It's not. It's not.
Impossible.
But that means that the killer, who is just an average man, somehow lifted out.
He had the maintenance. I thought it was his maintenance truck next to her.
I still don't know what a maintenance truck, how that factors into removing
That would have
an
been
engine.
so much.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess you could get away with it if you looked like you knew what you're doing in a parking lot.
But an
Just be
engine
like, oh,
weighs like
nobody would say anything.
300 pounds. It's like 250, 300 pounds.
You seen these guys?
Hey,
See what they can
The
lift?
big guys.
Maybe he prayed to God to have the engine removed.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's just like this.
Whose side are you on, God?
Well, this was the most baffling part about the movie was because, like, you know, if we were writing a Christian horror movie, you could probably frame the entire pursuit and escape from a criminal as, like, you know, a gift from God. But in order to really show that there was some sort of godly miracle happening here, they had to, like, after the fact, set up this idea that she was able to get at least home from the mall with no engine.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just,
And
it's just very
down.
strange because
Yeah, they doubled down on the like God rescued her thing because the first thing the mom says after she's done screaming from her husband sneaking up on her, is she says, "I am just grateful that God allowed our child to make it home," or something.
Yeah,
which
it's not alone.
You can't say
you
the
know.
same thing about the other murder victims.
Yes,
but this time God got off her lazy ass and
allowed this magical flying car to take the child home.
But that's in the Bible. The magical flying car. Right?
That is true.
Yeah, the Book of Chitty. That's his name. And but yeah, that is where the movie ends us. We of course do have a lot of bloopers after the credits, which is always classic for a Christian film. This film clocks in at just over an hour, which is perfect. I really have to commend the director for that.
68 minutes, 3 minutes under feature length.
Wow.
And then you get past the credits and the kids are all at a campfire talking about what happened.
Yeah.
And my favorite line in the movie, when the girl says, a lot of people think I'm making this story up, but I just don't see why I would do that.
Spoken like a true liar.
Yeah. Which feel free to use that. Whenever you fuck up at work or something. You're accusing me of not filing this paperwork, but I don't know why I wouldn't do that.
And then there is one final aha gotcha moment because they hear a sort of like twig snapping in the woods.
Yeah,
or
you can hear the chain,
yeah. And they all jump and then it
set it up for Prey 2.
Prey 2.
Which, good news, exists.
There is a Prey 2.
And a Prey 3.
And did you say there's a Prey 2.5?
Yes.
There's they have as many iterations of Prey as like the Kingdom Hearts franchise. It's pretty amazing. Prey is like definitely the Kingdom Hearts of Christian horror.
So you've seen Prey 2, 2.5, and 3?
We've seen 2, but not 3. And 2.5 actually combines 1 and 2, and then is also slightly modified.
Because they're both short.
Oh, okay.
Prey 2 is like the same length, I think. Maybe a little longer.
Yeah, I think it was a little longer.
Yeah.
Cool.
They got some more locations for Prey 2.
Excellent movie. I'm trying to think if there was any. Oh, you know what I really wanted to talk about, especially having you here, Joey, is you picked up on some references to other classic horror films,
right?
That a mere peon, would not have picked up on. I was glad to have you there. What did you notice from the film?
So, I think it was pretty clear. I think we talked about it as we were watching it. You said that the movie, like someone else had said that the movie drew inspiration from Halloween, John Carpenter's classic Halloween, and there is a lot of visual cues. Like at one point, a woman looks out a window and sees a figure standing by a car, which is like from the original. And again, you just have a mass killer hunting a girl for no reason, sort of thing, which Halloween sort of established. But at one point in the movie, there's a flyer for one of the women who was killed and is now missing. And apparently the name of the town that she's missing from is Smith's Grove, which is a direct reference from Halloween. And her name is Laurie Curtis, which sounds like a combination to me of Laurie Strode, the character in Halloween played by Jamie Lee Curtis. Laurie Curtis.
I think you're onto something there.
That's really clever. I enjoyed that.
I think so. But you know what? My question is like, you've got the Giallo references, you've got Halloween references, you've got the kids hanging around a campfire, which could be any number of 80s horror movies, Friday the 13th, most likely.
I think that gave this movie some life that the more uncanny Christian movies lack. You can see secular influences. It didn't shy away from having secular influences in general. And, even the movie was done by amateurs, shot on video, no budget. It still had, life to it that some of the other movies don't. And I thought even just doing a Christian horror movie in general was very novel. And that fact alone led us to check out the movie. And I was not disappointed. It was really fun,
Same. I enjoyed it.
Let's finish out our review here by rating the movie. What did everyone think? I personally give this movie 7 out of 7 past Vacation Bible School t-shirts you found at Goodwill.
I'm going to give it 4 out of 4 hamburgers with no condiments, but keep the shredded lettuce.
I, too, enjoyed this movie. I will give it 5 out of 5 chains that look like snakes.
And And what do you think, Julian?
I'm going to give it 6 out of 6 invisible car engines.
We love it.
Wow.
Truly a
Perfect
miracle.
ratings all around.
Truly a miracle. And also, wait, before we go, though, what do we have to plug? I did want to mention that, Joey, you and Scott of the Boys Bible Study main cast are doing a monthly shot on video night in Los Angeles. I was hoping you would talk about that.
Scott?
Yeah, Joey and I are doing a monthly shot on video night in Los Angeles.
God is good. God is
Well,
good.
well, I think what Scott meant to say is that Scott and I are doing a monthly shot on video horror night in Los Angeles. Or not horror, the shot on video night in Los Angeles.
God is good. God is
We've
good.
been calling this event Movie Time.
Movie Time in Los Angeles. And also, please be sure to check out Joey's blog, Camera Viscera, and follow Joey on social media with that name. Any other plugs, boys? Anything else? All right. Well, in that case, thank you very much for listening. And definitely check out the movie Prey 2007 on Amazon Prime. Yay.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff Bezos.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day